Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Haqq Talk. This here is a new show, kind of impromptu, giving y'all what y'all looking for at Haqq. I got with me today Yahya and Markel Muhammad. I'm gonna read a little bit to y'all about Brother Yahya. Yahya Abdullah John Ibn Cameron was a former Baptist deacon, born and raised by Christian parents with very strong family values. Brother Yahya reverted to Islam in 2004, started studying Islamic knowledge, dawah, social outreach under Imam Malik Zahir Radiallahu of Masjid Al-Rahman in Canton, Ohio. Brother Yahya is a graduate of Stark State College with a degree in social services. He is experienced in interfaith dialogue, advocate for social justice, and is a founding member of the Dawah Society of Ohio. Brother Yahya, give your salams to the people, brother.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah. How you been?
Alhamdulillah, brother. I can't complain.
Alhamdulillah.
Out here want to share what we know and what we gathered in our life.
Facts. What's the weather like up there?
It's a little cold, brother. It's a little cold. We got some bad weather coming in. Snow, then a little rain, and some more snow. It's supposed to be bad, but alhamdulillah. Allah is the best of planners. We just got to deal with what He planned for us.
Alhamdulillah, that's right. That's the attitude to take.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm broadcasting. Where you at?
I'm in Alliance, Ohio.
Okay.
About 15 miles from Canton.
Okay. Hall of Fame city.
Alhamdulillah. That's what's up.
It's always good to see you, brother, but it's even more special to be doing this with you, because this is kind of what
we've been on this for a long time, brother. So we moving up and doing some things. May Allah give us the ability to reach those that need to know, and may make us all stronger in the faith, inshallah.
Inshallah. Yes, I gotta agree with all of that. Okay, next we're gonna bring in Brother Markel Muhammad. My brother, look at him. It's long overdue, brother. It's long overdue. How you doing, Markel?
Alhamdulillah, Alameen. Allah is good. Allah is good to all of His slaves.
Alhamdulillah, that's true. Always good. Let me read a little bit about Brother Markel here. This is actually my first time really reading about Markel, other than some of his work. Before I even get into the bio, let me show you. This brother is an accomplished author. How do I get this up here? Oh man, I'm gonna add it a little later. Y'all see that? Y'all see
it's
that?
Fading in and out.
Fading in and out. Probably because I got this dang on background up here. But the brother is a very good writer.
Right.
Very good author, man. He pulls them points out deep. He does very good research. Okay. I think Brother Markel say right here in his bio that he took his shahada 23 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Oh man, you about to, what's that called? The 25th anniversary.
Yeah. Coming close, quarter of a century.
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, brother.
That's a long time, brother. The revert. Okay, so I see here you also studied under the same imam we studied under for a while, Brother Imam Malik Abdul Zahir.
That's right. That's where actually I took my shahada with.
Okay, that was my first imam. He's like my second imam, but he was my first imam that I actually got close to.
Right.
And was at his house and did other than masjid business with. So yeah, I miss that brother.
I love Imam Malik. I love him to death to this day.
Okay, so Markel say here you study with S.H. Hassan of Senegal.
Sheikh Hassan
CC of Senegal. Senegal is a hot spot for that spirituality, Islamic spirituality. So I know he was blessed over there.
He's the Khalifa of his of Tariqa Tijani. You know, the grandson of Sheikh Ibrahim Inyas. Sheikh Hassan is a legend. You know, millions of students all over the world, and you know he's world renowned for the work he's done for Africa and trying to build Africa's infrastructure. He fed millions of people, provided electricity and housing for millions of people. He was more than just a teacher of religion.
Okay.
He was an activist.
I would like. Is he the author?
Sheikh Hassan has many books. Sheikh Hassan passed maybe 10, 12 years ago. Sheikh Hassan has many books. You can access a lot of his works. His brothers got work. Sheikh Mahi Sise. You can access their works online. Just do a Google search. Sheikh Hassan Sisi.
Okay, inshallah, I'll get to doing that. Was he happen to be in the Qadariya chain?
Tijani. He's
okay.
Tijani.
Okay, alhamdulillah. All right, so it also says here you studied with Sheikh Muhammad Ninawi? Sheikh
Muhammad Ninawi. You know, when I lived in Atlanta, I studied under Sheikh Muhammad Ninawi. Now, Sheikh Muhammad Ninawi, since I've left, has opened up what's called the Medina Institute. Sheikh Muhammad Ninawi was the most learned sheikh in America I've ever met. We studied Arabic, we studied Aqidah. I studied the Kitab Tahawiyah from him, and I studied Abu Hanifa's work on Aqidah, Fiqh al-Akbar. We learned Tasawwuf, we learned Fiqh, we learned everything from Sheikh Muhammad Ninawi. He's the most learned scholar I know of in America, hands down.
Okay.
Bar none.
Okay, so you also have here Sheikh Muhammad Mendez, Sheikh Muhammad Sharif, Mulana Masoud Beige. What did I stop at?
Well, Sheikh
Muhammad Sharif.
Sheikh Muhammad Sharif currently lives in Mali.
Okay.
But he was the director of the Sancor of the African American Islamic Institute. He translated a lot of books from the Jamaat of Sheikh Uthman Danfodio, the master of Maliki Fiqh, Arabic, Tasawwuf, Fiqh. I learned everything from him. I also learned from Sheikh Muhammad Mendez, who was also one of his students, who also studied with Sheikh Muhammad Ninawi in Atlanta. We learned the Kitab Tahawiyah. I took the Al-Akhdari and other texts from him and Maliki Fiqh from him. He's definitely in learning about our African Islamic history. He was a master of Arabic. He had a 4-year degree in Arabic from Ohio State. So he's a master of Arabic. A beautiful brother. I've studied with Maulana Masoud Beg in Florida as well. And I studied
Aki, 1 second. We're going to talk about all the brothers, inshallah, over the next year or so. We're going to get to these brothers. We're going to dig in deep. But right now, we most definitely want to give Imam W.D. Muhammad his flowers because it is Black History Month, or what many call Black History Month. And we're going to most definitely dig into this brother right here. Brother Markel, I didn't know you study with so many people. I'm going to have to watch you.
That's one of the things we need to discuss one day. We'll bring these points out, inshallah. It's in the upcoming programs that we'll be having this is definitely something that we'll be talking about even tonight in some way. So, inshallah, we'll get to it.
Inshallah. Yeah. Okay. So we don't really want to keep the people too long. This is a great video. Great video. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull it up. And this video is about a man in America, a foundational black American, a black man who was the son of the Elijah Muhammad, grew up in the Nation of Islam and pivoted towards Sunni Islam, or what they called at the time Orthodox Islam. And this brother did something that nobody else on earth can claim they did.
Exactly.
And if they did, only Allah know about it, because nobody's talking about it. This brother right here, he actually gave, how many shahadas was it at one time, Haqq?
Between 100 and 200,000 shahadas at one time, which is probably the largest conversion of a group of human beings in the history of the world at once.
That is amazing. I mean, but why they don't talk about this? You guys have any idea why they don't talk about this, or why? Or when did you first hear about this? Because I never heard about this.
I heard about this years ago. After I had took my shahada in 2004, and I stayed in Columbus actually for 2 years. And I was going to masjid, the war theme ran masjid that was inside the YMCA of all places in Columbus on Long Street in downtown Columbus. And we called it, I believe at the time, Masjid Bilal. But during the discussions and doing some of the khutbahs, we had discussions with the Imam down there, and he had told me about Brother W.D. Muhammad. Of course, I was new to Islam at the time, so I didn't know the significance or the history of W.D. Peace be upon him at that time. But alhamdulillah, that was one of the first things I learned about him, was how after he had taken over the Nation of Islam and brought the people to what they call Orthodox or Sunni Islamic traditions, it was W.D. who actually gave this shahada to all these brothers and sisters at the time. So it's definitely somebody we should be talking more about historically. The historical significance of this man on the landscape of America from that time to well into the future, inshallah. May Allah grant him peace. I believe will be something that will change the country for real. You know, no matter how people want to downplay it, in time, I'm sure Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it known, and truth will be exposed, you know.
I think I misspoke when I said I had never heard of it. At one point, I had never heard of it. I think I got familiar with the story about 4 years ago, and I've been Muslim about 9 years, maybe going on 10. But so about half the time I didn't know, but I knew about him, and I read some of his books about community development and things of that nature. And I really intended on looking more into him, but you know how the knowledge comes to you from so many directions. Sometimes you get off the track. As far as like, I'm gonna study W.D. Muhammad. One day I just never got back to it. But then I found out about this, and I was like, man, I gotta study this brother, because I mean, he's the only one in the world who can say he did that, and it's like historical. But to our viewers, basically what we want to do is want to show you this video, offer some commentary, And hopefully you guys can engage us in the comments. Y'all ready?
Bismillah.
All right.
In
Bismillah.
America itself, many young Muslims, even young Muslims who are interested in dawah in the US, are unaware of the legacy of Imam Warith Din Muhammad. If you want to pronounce his name in the proper Arabic fashion, it would be Imam Warithuddin Muhammad. But he's also known as Imam W.D. Muhammad. He was born as Wallace Muhammad. He was one of the sons of Elijah Muhammad, who I'm sure you have heard of, who was the second leader of the Nation of Islam. Now, very quickly, the Nation of Islam, despite its name, was not really an Islamic organization. It was a syncretist organization, meaning that it combined elements of Christianity, so teachings from the Bible, along with some teachings of Islam, and a whole lot of teachings about black nationalism. And I would add to that materialism as well, empiricism and materialism, the idea that only the material counts, something doesn't exist unless it physically exists. All of these beliefs were combined together to make the Nation of Islam. Now, what's funny is that when many of us talk about the history of the Nation of Islam, we kind of jump from the time of Malcolm X. We all know Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam in 1964 and became a regular Sunni Muslim. But from there, we just kind of jump to the modern day incarnation of the Nation of Islam, which is led by Louis Farrakhan. But what happened in between? That's really the most interesting bit for me. What happened after Malcolm X, rahimahullah, was assassinated? Well, in 1975, Elijah Muhammad, who within the Nation of Islam is called the Messenger of Allah, and there's many other un-Islamic beliefs that this group holds, but in 1975 he died. And the ministers of the Nation of Islam, meaning the religious leaders of the Nation of Islam, unanimously chose Wallace Muhammad, the future Imam Warithuddin Muhammad, to become the new supreme leader of the Nation of Islam. So this happened in February 1975 at their Savior's Day event, where they figuratively and literally raised him up as their new leader. And yes, Louis Farrakhan was present at this event as well, where he pledged his undying loyalty and his undying dedication to serving Imam Wallace or Imam Warith Din Muhammad.
His son, Wallace D. Muhammad, will shoulder this mighty task, this mighty job, this mighty work of the resurrection of our people, and that we will offer all of our resources, all of our talents, all of our skills, all of our abilities to this son of the messenger.
Despite that, 3 years later in 1978, Louis Farrakhan would break off and he would restart the original Nation of Islam group with the original Nation of Islam teachings about white people being devils, Allah coming in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad being a messenger of God, etc. But I don't want to go off on that tangent right now. What I want to emphasize is that in 1975 through 1976, Imam Warith Din Muhammad immediately started disbanding the old NOI teachings. So he started getting rid of the idea that a man named Master Fard Muhammad, who was the founder of the NOI, was Allah in the person. He got rid of the idea that his father, Elijah Muhammad, was a prophet or a messenger of Allah. He started emphasizing the need for the Nation of Islam members to read and study the Quran. He brought in the 5 daily salah, the 5 daily prayers. He taught the members that they now had to fast during the month of Ramadan, not in December as Elijah Muhammad had it done, but during the lunar month of Ramadan. He led the largest American delegation of pilgrims to the Hajj in Mecca. He renamed the Nation of Islam temples to masjids. He renamed the ministers of the Nation of Islam as imams. He pulled out the benches and the chairs from these masjids and laid down carpets because now they started praying in the what they called the orthodox Islamic manner, meaning the normal Sunni Muslim fashion. He also taught that there is to be no racism in Islam, and white people were now allowed to join the Nation of Islam. So understand this: in 1975, while the movement was still called the Nation of Islam, while the organization was still called Nation of Islam, they now believed in Allah as we do. They now believed in the finality of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as we do. They were now doing 5 daily salat as we do. They were now fasting during Ramadan as we do. This, in my opinion, is a modern day Islamic miracle, and it happened in America, which is absolutely amazing.
We're going to do it because it's what we want. It's what we've been wanting. It's what we've been starving for. It's what we have to have in our lives. We're going to do it because it's right, because it's just, because it's plain and simple and easy for everybody to live it and understand it. We're going to do it because many people who can't reach it want it just like we want it. So we're going to do it for them. We're going to do it because it's time to do it. Because it's time to do it. Because it's time to do it.
I think you can get. Okay, brothers. So I gotta get y'all a second to get in here and comment on some of this. What do you see so far? Anything stand out to you guys?
Well, of course, this is given from the perspective of an obviously immigrant brother. I would assume probably Pakistani or Arabic.
I believe that's Dr. Nasser Qadi.
Oh, is that who it is?
I believe that's his voice.
Okay. I didn't know that was his voice. But one thing that I'm picking out is, of course, he's looking at it from a point of view, no matter how he's trying to give it, from an outsider's point of view of things. And he's still giving a pretty good understanding of, the importance of Imam W.D. Muhammad and the significance of his presence at the time that he came. I still hear those tinglings of, I don't want to say overt racist thought, but it's definitely the calling out of the Nation of Islam and not seeing or having an understanding or the progression of how Islam developed, and giving what I would say is, even though we know that it's shirk, you still have to give some more acknowledgement at the time what people could really spiritually intake, and then see the ramifications of what happened afterwards. That get kind of pushed aside sometimes when others don't truly know the culture that the African American Islamic community has grown and developed into, and the steps that we needed to take to get there. So I can still hear that, make it a separate thing. They're not Muslims, but if the brothers and sisters say La ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, they Muslim. We can all differentiate and bring the brothers and sisters back with correct dawah and discuss the ideals that they may have, if they truly even have them now, and let truth, let the Haqq be what sets everything straight. But we shouldn't just dismiss what he even is acknowledging a miracle, you know. So uh, for us as Muslims, I think we should start seeing that other groups, other people are seeing our leaders from the past and their significance, even if they minimize them, they are noticing. And with them noticing, we should be, as descendants of these people, uh, whether it's spiritually or outward, we should understand and try to acknowledge that and bring that history into our daily life, because it's very important that we don't dismiss our historical ties to this man. This brother here may single-handedly be the reason for Islam to become one day, inshallah, the religion of this country, of this area. And our people will be seen as being a significant part of that. So, alhamdulillah, I feel what the brother's saying, and I can see what is being said so far.
Okay, I agree with you as far as them. I agree with you on everything for real, but I most definitely agree with you on the part where they try to kind of like diminish his stature because of his father.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, that's the attempt to that's the whitewashing right there. Now the narrator, he might not know what he's doing.
right, right.
You know,
But that's that that's that uh, not institutional, but
systematic.
systematic racism that has creeps in everywhere because of white
Right.
supremacy.
Yeah,
So
it's in the
even
system.
even people that come from other countries come in and get caught up under understanding the framework of the systematic racism that's been part of this whole thing since the country was founded as the way it is. So maybe more dialogue with our immigrant brothers and sisters, especially between the Islamic groups. We don't need to go outside and try to bring other people. We can start with our brothers and sisters at the masjid. We all got these issues going on right now, and the real truth of the matter is, there we're the reason that Islam will grow. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us and put us in the point that Islam will grow. It won't grow because of the immigrant population and the immigrant leaders of masjids and of our madrasas and schools. They have to be aware of the significance of the African American population and their abilities to be able to be in the forefront as leaders socially, strategically, in all kinds of ways in this um, spiritual battle that's going on for the heart of this nation and indeed of the whole Ummah and world. So inshallah, may we all be rewarded to be able to do these things, and be a part of
Inshallah. Inshallah.
I think that we also should keep in mind the ultimate vision of Imam Muhammad, Hafizahullah. The Nation of Islam had disbelief, shirk, as part of the theological aspects, but the purpose of the Nation of Islam was to help to resurrect black folks from the condition that it was in just coming
it.
out of slavery. And that the goal of the Nation of Islam was to help free black people spiritually, mentally, psychologically, economically, culturally, socially, and politically, which is most excellent. So Imam W.D. Muhammad, when he came to power with the Nation of Islam, he still kept those same objectives for our people.
That's true.
Although he changed uh, theological aspects of the teaching towards the truth, following the last messenger of God, following the last revelation of God, the aims and the objectives that he intended for our people were still the same. And 2022, although Imam Muhammad isn't here with us, that vision for our people, culturally, socially, politically, economically, we need to be empowered. And he brought us Islam to the truth so that we can be empowered and we can continue empowering our people. This was the vision of Imam Muhammad. Although he's not the only one who shared it, those of us
Right.
who love and respect Imam Muhammad, we have to continue to focus on this vision. And this is where I think that many of us have lost sight of the vision that he shared for the masses of our people.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah, we have lost that vision, and inshallah, we about to get it back. Starting with this movement right here.
Alhamdulillah.
Let's get back to the video. We're gonna let it play for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna get into some more commentary.
Now, I know that Imam Warithuddin Muhammad rahimahullah, may Allah be pleased with him, because he passed away in 2008. Like any human being, he was not perfect. There were certain things, there were certain structural changes in the organization that I think might not have been the right thing to do. His discarding of the name Nation of Islam, in hindsight, might not have been a wise thing to do, because it freed that label up for Louis Farrakhan in 1978 to take ownership of it again. And definitely, there was some political fiqh, some political philosophy that we would disagree with. There were some modernist fiqh opinions that we would disagree with. Until now, his organization never fully conformed to the fiqh of one of the four traditional madhahib of Sunni Islam. But we shouldn't miss the forest for the trees. The fact remains that Imam Warithuddin Muhammad, by the permission of Allah, he single-handedly brought over 100,000 members of the Nation of Islam away from their shirk beliefs, that in which they worshipped a human being, their blasphemous belief that Elijah Muhammad is a prophet, their misguided belief that white people are devils and black people are intrinsically divine. He discarded all of these beliefs, and he brought them to Tawheed, and he brought them to the Sunnah, he brought them to the Quran, he brought them to 5 daily prayers, and basically helped pave the way for them to be assimilated into mainstream American Sunni Islam. This is no small accomplishment. You try to change just one person's mind. You try to change the conviction or the belief or the religion of even one person. If we convince one person, we're happy. If we've given shahada to 5 people, we feel very blessed. Someone who has helped guide 10 people to Islam, that person is so special. What about this man, Imam Warithuddin Muhammad? How can we not honor and acknowledge and commemorate his legacy? And in addition to that, how can we not reference this story of American Islam in our dawah to Westerners? For those of us who are in the English speaking world, how can you live in America and not reference this example? How can you be a Muslim in Canada, or for that matter, in England, or Australia, or New Zealand, which are culturally and civilizationally part of the Western English speaking world? How can you, in your dawah work, not reference this? Now, one of the most common misconceptions, as you know, that we hear from some non Muslims is that Islam spread by the sword. And when they say that, they're not just talking about the Islamic empire, because all empires spread by force, but they mean the faith of Islam. The religious beliefs of Islam were forced on people at the point of the sword. What examples do we give to counter that? I'm asking you, what example do you give to counter that? What country? What region do you reference when you want to counter that allegation that Islam spread by force? I'm guessing that you probably think of Indonesia. Rightly so. That's a very good example to give. Some of you might give the example of Malaysia. These are areas where outside Muslim armies never invaded. The Umayyads, the Abbasids, the Ottoman Khilafah, they never invaded the Indonesian islands or the Malay islands. If you think a little bit more outside of the box, then you might also mention Islam in China, which arrived and spread there peacefully. You might also mention West Africa in the last 300-400 years, where it's basically Muslim Sufi missionaries that have spread the teachings of Islam peacefully. You might even mention South India, places like Tamil Nadu, like Kerala, where it wasn't Turkic invaders that came in, but it was Yemeni and Arab traders who spread Islam there. But why don't we reference the mass conversion, the communal conversion of so many African Americans to Islam in the 1970s and the 1980s in America? If you live in the US, this is your own backyard. Why only reference far off Indonesia and its story from centuries ago? Why not give an example from your own backyard? Muslims in Canada, why not give this example which belongs to our southern neighbors and which is from contemporary times, which is from modern times? And by the way, this phenomenon of communal conversion amongst Black Americans to Islam, especially in the 1970s and the 1980s, this cannot be simply explained away as being only a case of reconversion to their ancestral religion. Because we know for a fact that many of the African slaves that were kidnapped and forced on boats, brought forcibly to North America and to South America, we know that a good number of them were in fact Muslim. So it's very tempting to say, well, they had Islam in their blood. It was there in their collective consciousness, and it's kind of a reconversion process. I mean, that would be no less of a miracle, but that is too simplistic of an explanation. Dr. Abdul Hakim Sherman Jackson has explained this very well when he said that the largest number of African slaves were actually taken to Brazil. And yet in Brazil, you don't have this phenomenon of mass conversions to Islam. You don't have the story of Nation of Islam in Brazil. You don't have an Imam Warithuddin Muhammad in Brazil. You don't have the equivalent of a Muhammad Ali or a Malcolm X. You don't have the equivalents of these people in Brazil. So there is something more special happening in America. There is something more unique, and yes, I would say more miraculous, that happened in America. And by the way, by communal conversion, of course, I don't mean to say that every Black American became a Muslim. We know that that didn't happen. But by communal conversion, we mean that there was a mass scale conversion within the Black American community, to the extent that today, virtually every Black American has a Muslim relative somewhere in his or her family. Every Black American has either an uncle or an auntie, a cousin, a second cousin, a sibling, maybe a son or a daughter who converted to Islam in more recent times. That's what we mean by communal conversion. Now, at this point, I'm simply repeating a couple of very profound points that Dr. Sherman Jackson made, because I believe these points are worth repeating and I want to expose them to a new audience. Point number one, Dr. Jackson asks that as Muslims who believe that everything is part of the divine plan of Allah, do you think that this was just a coincidence? Do you think it was just a coincidence that the only example of communal conversion to Islam in the West just happened to happen in the most powerful nation on the earth, in America? It just happened to happen in the economic and military superpower of the world. Do you think that was just a coincidence, or do you believe that that was Allah's plan? Point number two, do you think that it's a coincidence that this communal conversion happened amongst that group of Americans who can not only get away with criticizing America, and for those who became Muslim, those Black Afro-American Muslims are the only group of Muslims in America that can get away with criticizing America without being told to go back where they came from, right? No one would have told Malcolm X or Muhammad Ali to go back where they came from. David Chappelle, who also happens to be a Muslim, just because he's not on the transgender, he's not with the transgender agenda, no one has the audacity to tell David Chappelle that, well, he should leave America and go back to where he came from. So do you think it's a coincidence that this is the group of people that Allah chose to introduce or to reintroduce Islam to in America? The only group of people who, the more they criticize America, the more quintessentially American they are actually perceived as being. Think about what a profound point that is by Dr. Sherman Jackson. In other words, if someone who looks like me in America criticizes America from an Islamic perspective, I'll be told to go back to where I came from. I'll be accused of being un-American or unpatriotic. But when someone like Malcolm X criticized America, people look at him and say, yeah, that's just such an American thing to do, isn't it? That's such an African American thing to do.
Okay, so I just thought about something. It's first time this actually occurred to me. There may be one reason why they don't talk about this guy and they don't support his communities or anything like that, because they might be told to go home. They might feel like, man, if I go help them dudes, I gotta go home. I don't want to go home. You think that got something to do with it?
No, I really don't think that would be on their agenda. I really think it comes down to the fact, and we see it in the masjids that we attend right now, or every Haqq, every Juma. Slowly, African American brothers who've been the foundation of Islam for so long as the imams and amirs of communities are slowly being pushed away for Pakistani money, Arabian money, and leaders. And we're being Wahhabinized into ideals that aren't going to be beneficial for the Ummah at large anyway. So, one thing we have to realize is no matter what method we follow, whether you're Sunni, Shia, and I understand how, people gonna get to saying whatever they want to say, but the truth is, again, we all say La ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. It shouldn't be no issue. It shouldn't be no thing, but what is best for the Ummah. Nobody has the ability, like the brother brought out here, to fight and stand up against the forces of white supremacy and how things were and how to put them back in the proper perspectives to those that are the oppressors better than the African American leaders, because we know the culture. We are the builders of this society. So to know that that would be an asset and you don't want to use it, I don't think that's the issue. I think these people have came and have caught on to stepping on others, the very fabric of white supremacy, and they feel that they can get around. They see the news and the images that have been portrayed as what Black America stands for, and they just feel that they, in so many ways, they better. So I think what they're trying to do is rebrand Islam to an American public, specifically the Caucasian brothers and sisters, and try to culturally oppress what had been set up as the norm as far as Islamic foundations here in the United States beforehand, before they came into power and prestige again, basically with the money that has been brought into certain areas. They use, different examples on why, but these brothers and sisters, especially the more educated and the more known, we've seen images of Imam W.D. Muhammad with Yasser Arafat and other religious leaders from the Middle East and in North Africa that were Arab descent, but yet he's not getting the prestige, he's not getting the recognition of being someone that should be looked upon as being uh, one of our great and important Islamic leaders here in America. No matter how you feel about some of the teachings that he expounded, or you might feel that he was not knowledgeable on fiqh or some of the other aspects of Islam, we have to forego some of those ideas when we see the significance of what the brother did and give him his dues. And I don't see that amongst the immigrant population. Truly, a lot of our own brothers and sisters, especially the younger ones, don't know the significance because it's not being taught by the people that are running the masjids and now teaching the different. Like if your masjid is larger, you probably have social outreach programs and Islamic educational programs going on. Nobody is talking about this brother, and the people that are teaching this aren't discussing him enough. So it's up to us to really expound upon this and bring his knowledge, his importance, and all of that to light to communities that wouldn't know, because what he brought actually empowers us and gives us more incentive to go out and have dawah with those that don't know, because we all come from pretty much the same cultural and social backgrounds. And if people are going to come here and live in the United States, they're going to have to come and live within those same constraints, because if you don't, you're going to go back. And the work that you're trying to do is not going to be of significance, or you're going to cause a backlash, which we know certain segments, certain popular political groups will use to say all Muslims are like that, and that will be more detrimental than anything. So we have to get them to understand the importance of the African American and indeed Orathim Muhammad's contributions to Islam in the United States, and that way we can keep that knowledge and we can also use it to empower ourselves to go out and do the works that, like Brother Markel said, that Ward Dean Muhammad had envisioned himself for the community to go through and do. Otherwise, Islam in the United States would be continually a second religion. Even though there's nobody going to the churches, it'll be looked upon as that. So we have to. I think it's on us to go out and make that importance known.
See, brother, we have to. The issue with regards to Imam Muhammad is not old; is older than Islam itself. If we go back to historical facts, go back to history before the Prophet Muhammad with regards to Arab civilization, with regards to the Arabs, the year that the Prophet was born, we know that the Yemeni king Abraha
All right.
came into Mecca to destroy the Kaaba. What we need to understand is that Yemen, he may have been a king of Yemen, but Yemen was underneath or one of the provinces of Ethiopia. Many of those people that came into Mecca on those elephants that Allah destroyed, you had many of them were blacks, were black people. Not to say that the original Arabs weren't black, but you had a lot of Africans. So what happened is after many of those people were killed. So you have many people who were taken enslaved, and the Africans were taken and almost punished for what many of their people, some of their people, came and tried to do. So it was that event that really helped to incite Arab African descent. So when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam grew, as we know that he was born in the year of that event, as the Prophet grew, he grew into a society that was deeply divided between the Africans and the Arabs. Um, this is continued throughout Islamic history. This is continued for 14 centuries, all the way up until the time of the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad. What a lot of people don't know, I've talked to some of our pioneer imams, like Imam Mutawif Shaheed from Masjid RM, who is a true pioneer, who's went out there and remarked and told people openly, because many people don't know, many of the Saudis in the 1960s and early 70s, before Elijah Muhammad died, they were courting Elijah Muhammad. They were going to many of the indigenous African American Sunni communities and actually try to consolidate them, confederate them together, and ask them to take bayah to Elijah Muhammad, whom the Saudis were going to prop up as the leader of Islam in America. And they, in exchange for doing such, they would be given a great deal of money and wealth, given from the Saudis into that community. Why would this, and Imam Mutawif Shaheed was at these meetings. He was one of these young imams. He vouches on that. So you ask, well, if the Nation of Islam believed in what they believed in, why would the Saudis be courting him? Well,
Right.
Elijah Muhammad had many hundreds of millions of dollars in assets. He was bringing millions of pounds in of fish from Chile. He had hundreds of thousands of followers. He had hundreds of thousands, a few 100,000 actual members, registered members, and millions of sympathizers. He had more power than any black man in America, which means he had access to tremendous amounts of wealth. And that's what the Saudis saw. The Saudis were after wealth. They were trying to make inroads into America so that they can wrap their arms completely around the dunya. And they were courting the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so after he died, they went out there and courted Imam Muhammad, the same thing. They weren't interested in teaching African Americans Deen al Islam. They weren't
Right.
interested in trying to better us and trying to help further our right to self determination. They weren't trying to economically free us from the bondages of slavery, from the vestiges of slavery. They weren't trying to help our neighborhoods. They weren't trying to help us culturally, socially, politically, economically advance. They wanted wealth. They wanted money. And so consequently, You know what I'm saying? They never concerned themselves with us then, and they're not concerning about us today. The problem where our people, where we have dropped the ball, is that we went out there, and it's almost like in our history dealing with white America, you take one slave master um, and replace him for another. We take the white slave
That's what.
master who has governed us in chattel slavery, and we've came to Islam thinking that we're better and liberated, but we took in the Arab, the Pakistani, and others. We believe that their ijazas, that their scholars given, is better than the scholar than our own scholars that we've been given. We
Even
believe
though
that
we
their
got
water is
scholars right
wetter than what
here.
we have. So consequently, we go out there and don't concern because of the self hatred that we've had coming from slavery that we have not
I'm just
addressed with Islam. We've gone out there and allowed others to have some level of superiority or think they have that. That's why they think they lead the narrative, they lead the discourse of Islam in America when they can't establish Islam in America, only us. So consequently, minister people like Imam W.D, Muhammad, and our leaders are always going to be marginalized and minimalized because they don't fit in. Honoring them doesn't fit into the agenda of what the immigrants have for Islam in America. And this is
so
our
now here's
responsibility. It's our responsibility to raise
right.
Imam Muhammad and raise our leaders up and our pioneers up and to raise the standard of Islam up and to raise our communities up because we trust me, we are over here on our own. No Arab, Pakistanis, Turks, no one's going to come and help us. Nobody can help us. This is for us to do. And this is why us honoring people like Imam Muhammad is so important.
It's on
I
us
got,
to
I
do,
gotta
but
agree. It is very important
yeah.
uplift these brothers.
But I mean, for real though, we have to do it ourselves. But the benefit is going to be for the whole ummah. You know, realistically, if everybody look at everything in context, the only people like this video just said that can actually get to the conscious of the movers and shakers in this society are the African American Muslims. We're the only
Because
ones that can do
Now,
it.
which ones you talking about?
And we have to do
You talking about the ones from East Africa, West Africa,
no,
Tanzania?
talking about the African American whose ancestors was on the cotton fields or escaped slaves, you know.
I got you. Yeah,
Um,
that's what I'm talking about.
we are the
and
only ones who can truly establish Islam in America. We're the only ones who can change America. Us.
now they can
Not
bring
any
influence
not any other people.
if it's done in the right context, but you can't make this. This isn't going to be Pakistan. It's not going to be Saudi Arabia. It's not going to be none of those places. It's not going to be Morocco. It's not going to be that. This is, and the fight is real.
But see
The
what we
dunya,
have what we should understand and what Imam Muhammad is really strove for is establishing a separate independent Islamic identity, which is something that culturally we're
everybody else does.
lacking.
It's something everybody else has. Whether you from Indonesia or any Turkey, wherever, you got your own, except for the African American Muslims who they want to push to be in these Wahhabist ideas. And that's not
We have
going to fly.
we
That's
have to understand.
not the
It's correct.
Hey, brothers,
Islam.
let us get back to the video and we could pick that back up. Because we are actually getting to our hour mark and we wanted to be done with the video by then. So let's let this play for a little while longer and then we can go back to the fire, the Haqq.
Criticize America, not in a negative or destructive way, but actually to act as America's conscience. Is it a coincidence that the only communal conversion in the West happened in America and it happened amongst that group that acts as the remedy that acts as the collective conscious to remind America that no, America, you are not pure. No, America, you are not God's blessing to all the people of the world. No, America, you are not the champion of human rights that you claim to be. No, America, that war in Vietnam is not morally or ethically justified. The Black community has always historically acted as the conscience of America. Finally, Dr. Sherman Jackson argues that it is in the collective interest of all Muslims. It is in the collective interest of our dawah. It is in the collective interest of Islam in the West that we all collectively acknowledge that what happened in the 1970s and in the 1980s, and I'm adding to his words, specifically what Imam Warithuddin Muhammad did in 1975 and 1976 was indeed a miracle. It indeed is an example of Allah performing a miracle in our modern contemporary times. Allah still intervenes amongst people even today. And Dr. Sherman adds, he says that I'm not saying this because I'm Black. Don't get it mixed up. I'm not saying this because I'm Black. I'm saying this because I am a Muslim. In the same way that we all acknowledge that Allah intervened in the affairs of the 7th century pagan Arabs and he turned them around. That's not an Arab miracle. That's a Muslim miracle. All Muslims acknowledge. The Turk, the Persian, the Indonesian, the Bangladeshi, the Pakistani, the Bosnian, the Chinese Muslim, we all acknowledge. You don't have to be an Arab to acknowledge it. You have to be a Muslim to acknowledge that Allah was at work in 7th century Arabia. So in the same manner, or in a similar manner, Dr. Sherman Jackson says that we should all own this miracle. We should collectively acknowledge that Allah worked amongst Black Americans in the US, and he did this modern day miracle.
All right, y'all, we made it through it.
Thank you. Powerful video. This is a very powerful video, and it gives something that is much needed. The obvious miracle, and it's got to be seen as that. All that he outlined should be seen as something very special, and as a testimony and a witness for mankind.
Y'all hear music?
I don't hear none.
Oh, Markel, you hear music?
No, sir.
Oh, I hear like some drumming going on. What's going on? Oh, it's a video playing.
Afterwards.
Yeah, I kicked it off though.
So, you know, we got to be able to see and acknowledge and then share that. Again, others might not want to see, but it's on us through dawah, through other social outreach between the Muslim ummah. We have to be willing to go and share and teach. We have to be willing to go and share and teach these brothers and sisters that come here. Because let's be honest, one of the things I really think, and I don't want the backlash to come from certain people, but it's coming. But let's be real with this. Certain people certain so-called Muslims don't want Islam to grow here because they in cahoots with the enemy. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, that's true.
uh, they want this version of Islam that nobody is gonna want. You know, nobody is gonna want to be dominant, and in doing so, you divide and you control the narrative, and they know that's what they're trying to do here. But it's on us, like Brother Markel said a little while ago. We have to go out and make sure our community and those that follow the Deen of Al Islam is on accord. We can't be worried about these differences that other brothers and sisters might have as far as their um, path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we know that they Muslim, those are our brothers and sisters. So we get past that, then others will see that shouldn't be the narrative here either. And then we can have those outreaches. We can share certain knowledges. When brothers say things that we know that from our discussions between ourselves and our group that we've come to learn, we can share those same knowledges and turn brothers back to what is hot and bash falsehoods brains out, you know. But if we're not willing to stand up and do that, people gonna come claim to be Muslims and say they know more and use that to influence us in the negative. And that should never be. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the mission, and we know what that is right now by the standards that were set before. So we just hold on to what we know is right and correct, follow the truth, and stand against falsehood. That's following Quran and Sunnah.
Indeed. Brother Markel, did you catch the
Yes,
part when
sir.
he was talking about Imam W.D. Muhammad did not have a mathab? Did you hear that part?
Yes. You know, Imam Muhammad, but you also have to understand that um, Imam Muhammad was brought a people who didn't know anything about Islam properly and introduced Islam to them. Now, mind you, he didn't have a madhab. He didn't want to push the Hanafi, the Maliki, the Shafi, or Hanbali. So he didn't want to push any madhab or minhaj on his community. For the point of one, seeing how it has divided the Islamic world throughout the previous centuries, and he didn't want to go out there and divide his community with that, or divide our people with that. Although there are people I know in Imam Muhammad's community who follow various different madhabs and are a part of various different tariqas. Um, it was said that it was even rumored that with regards to the tariqas, you know, he was very good friends with many Tijani sheikhs, Qadiriya sheikhs, but he affiliated with the Naqshbandi tariqa. But that was his personal thing with Allah. So he didn't go out there and push that on the entire community. So within his community, you'll find people who follow various different madhabs and are part of various different tariqas. That's not the point. You know, the point was to push a particular madhab. The point was to go out there and to get us all into Islam and let us find our place and let us learn how to live together. And that's a beautiful idea, beautiful point, and that you made, that you know that he didn't push a particular madhab, but that didn't mean he was against that for his community. It wasn't his position to present a particular school of thought. The particular school of thought he wanted to push was the Quran and the Sunnah. And if anyone wanted to break off and find their own individual teachers, they could do that. but that they would come back to their community, their particular communities that he established, and all work together. So within his community, you had very different madhabs and very different tariqas, but they all work together, which is how the ummah should be in whole. He went out there and accomplished unity and brought unity within the diversity of his community that the ummah itself doesn't have. He was a forerunner in that.
Well, that kind of go back to what Yaya was saying. I think you even said it, that we will have to be the ones to show the way and build the proper way. And he was doing that. But you see,
Exactly.
you let other people take over. Allah knows best why it's happening, but you don't see the unity, you don't see the camaraderie, you don't see the stick to itness in the communities there.
Because they're bringing all of their cultural baggage right along into Islam in America and bringing that into our discourse. But that's for us. Like America needs a separate, a specific Islamic, American inspired identity. Islam is like a clear running stream. It takes the color of the rocks that it goes over. When you're in West Africa, when you're in Senegal or Nigeria or Sudan, you have a West African flavor. When you're in Morocco and Libya and Tunisia, you have a distinct Berber North African flavor. When you're in Turkey, you have a certain European flavor. When you're in Saudi, you have a Saudi flavor. You're in Pakistan, you have what is the we are people of the West,
But
right?
you know what,
We're leading the world in medicine, science, all of these advances. We're the richest country in the world. We should have our own type of cultural flavor that's Islamic.
I think we do. I think we had it. And then what happened is these groups came in and felt we were inferior and pushed their own dialogue and their emphasis on cultural Islamic understandings, because they should have came and seen what was said here and then came up under it.
But
There
that's
was
where our people. But
push,
that's where
right. Our
people
people,
blame.
right, exactly. Because we ran to where we seen the money, or somebody was offering something that we seen as a benefit, and not seeing what was actually going on. But at the same time, we didn't know that people were using knowledge or viewpoints, teaching us fiqh that wasn't beneficial or needed in our society, and we followed along with it. We have to get to the mindset of what you just said, making this and bringing it back to be something that's an American Islamic identity, which was already set up. It could have been honed, it could have been improved upon, but it was already here. It was already here, and it was an African American dominated landscape that was set up for that. And forces and groups that came into the country didn't like that, because racism is alive and well, not just here in the United States, but in other parts of the world as well. And we have to see it for what it is. That's the real reason. And these groups was able to use the techniques that others had used against us in order to get their way and their points across and to destroy the Islamic landscape as it was, which basically took it from being African American dominated and culturally an American identity, and made it into what is now a bunch of different groups. Our communities are scattered. We're not cohesive. All of the things that should be strengths to Islam has now been pushed aside here in the United States, which leads me to believe that's why I'm saying people came here to destroy Islam and not let it grow and not want it to be what it should be in our country. And
Oh
then
yeah, well we know that. We know that they pump big money into miseducation.
right. Well, I mean, but
Big
these are
money.
Muslims that's doing it, you know?
So to speak. Yeah, and they say they are. That's true. That's true. They
Right.
come to you dressed and talking just like one, you know.
But they doing it, yeah, and you're right, but they're doing it for others.
Exactly.
You
That's true.
know?
That's true.
But again, the foundation has been set by Imam W.D. Muhammad. May Allah have mercy and peace upon him. But it's up to us to go ahead and continue to work and get out there and do it. He already set the groundwork for us. It's time for us to get out and do it. And this is brothers and sisters throughout the Ummah in the United States. We just got to go up, and where we see these people, these brothers and sisters, that's what they are. They Muslim. These brothers and sisters that's immigrants, we have to initiate the dialogue, and we have to come with correct knowledge and situational standpoints that we can put in and stand on that they can't walk away from. They can't use it or turn it around. We got to know what we're doing. So we have to seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave as well. And the correct knowledge with emphasis on correct behavior. You know, all of that has to come into play so that can't nobody use anything against us, because we coming with the Haqq, we coming with the truth, and we coming as Muslims.
Well, that's true, but I also want to point out the fact that even if you do come all the way right and exact, correct, they're still gonna find something to say. They
So
still
they
gonna
might,
find something to say. So we might well
you
just be
know,
prepared for that too.
but I mean, be prepared. You know it's gonna happen. But they
Sure.
got to stand before Allah just like we all do. You
That's
know.
true. That's true. Brother Markel,
Yes,
would you like
sir.
to give us any last remarks? Anything you want to close us out with?
That the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is our guide, and we should look at his life after the conquest of Mecca. With regards to this issue, after the conquest of Mecca, many of the Arab tribes from across the Hijaz began to come to him, and they would take bay'ah with him. They would learn what Islam was, and they took allegiance with him. And they entered Islam. Now, the thing about that's interesting about all of these tribes is that the Prophet would go from among them and pick an Amir who would serve as a leader for them. And they would go back to their tribe. They would go back to their lands and follow their Amir. The Prophet Muhammad, when all of these Arab tribes came to accept Islam from him, he always took one from among them and made them their Amir. These are people that spoke the same language, had the same heritage, had the same historical culture, had the same everything. And the Prophet took one from among them and made an Amir from among them to be their leader. If the Prophet was alive today, we should ask ourselves, who would the Prophet make an Amir for the people of America? Would he make the Pakistan? Would he make a Pakistani? Would he make an Amir from Saudi? Would he make an Amir from Senegal? No, he would make an Amir from one of us who are from America. Leadership should be leadership and controlling the discourse of America, the discourse of Islam in America is for us to lead and for others to support. And as African Americans or indigenous Americans, this should be our focus is on providing leadership. But until that time, till that takes place, we won't correct the quote unquote racism and 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 what we face from our immigrant brothers and sisters. We won't face that inferiority complex that we have towards them and the superiority complex that they have towards us until we stand up and take our rightful position and lead in this country. And we have to understand that we are over here on our own, brothers and sisters. Nobody's going to come and give us the dean. Nobody's going to help rebuild our communities. No one's going to help us obtain any form of victory in America but us. We are completely on our own. And until we stand up and begin to lead and to begin taking the knowledge of the Quran and the knowledge of the Prophet, the knowledge from the Hadith, the knowledge from the scholars, and begin taking and putting our own ijtihad over it, overlapping our own current modern and historical, social, economic, and political situations. Until we do that, we're not going anywhere with Islam. And likewise, because Islam will not prosper, our country and people will be doomed. We either stand up and lead and save our people and save America, or we can all go out there and go down. Just like that.
Exactly. That's how I see it.
All right, brother.
So
Well,
like
thank
the
you
work is
very
on us
much.
to do, brother.
Yeah, well, we trying to get started right now with this. Well, we've been started, but we taking it to another level with this right here.
Yeah.
And with that being said, brothers, we're gonna try to do another one on Sunday. I think we should do it earlier. Could give us more energy. I could tell it's the end of the week. You know what I'm saying? It's night. We don't really have the energy we did the other night. Me and Yaya did a test run. So inshallah, we're gonna revamp the time. But I think overall we did a good job of getting the email some recognition and giving some people some like a roadmap to go back and to the history to just to learn, and to grow in the proper way. And the proper way is to give the people of the hometown, the city, the province, the state, give a leader or a teacher from among themselves. So W.D. Muhammad sound like the safe guy to study. He ain't no shirt. He's for his people. He was homegrown, and he had the largest conversion ever. Reversion, conversion, however you want to put it. It's like a record that'll never be broken. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yes, sir.
The job might make it might break it, because they say he's gonna have the whole world to see, right? You know what I'm saying? But as far as like an imam, a true imam, a true servant, a believer, I don't see it happening. Maybe in the metaverse, and I don't know, but we'll see.
Right, we'll see.
All right, brothers. Well, that concludes Haqq Talk for this week, episode 1. Like, share, subscribe, share, most definitely. Comment, leave your comments. We will respond. I think I'll put this in the Dawah Society tomorrow morning. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
All right,
all right, brother. Wa alaikum assalam.